Hi everybody, my name is Gary Yao, and today I would like to share with you a little bit of what's happening in the world and my perspective of what we should be paying attention to. Let's talk about market crash, housing crash, World War III. So what's happening right now? The war is ending apparently. The economy is not doing as well as we thought. Actually, we knew that it's actually going down, right? Let's talk about the conflict that we have right now, Ukraine. I'm going to focus more on the economic side and how this can affect housing. So with Ukraine, the US has printed money. We have given about $75 billion with a B, $billion to aid and help with the conflict effort in Ukraine. Also to help humanitarian efforts to help the people over there to be able to manage their situation. And now we have the Israel situation. Israel. Again, I don't pretend to know the ins and outs and the intricacies in this conflict, but I'm going to focus mainly on the numbers. The US has provided aid for $30 billion. Now that is money that is actually being gone and printed from our treasury, from our Federal Reserve, to help aid on the conflict that's going there. But let's not forget, we did print a lot of money during the COVID time. In fact, we print out so much money that is in the T's, trillion. We print out 5.2 trillion in the efforts with COVID. 1 trillion was sent to all of us in the form of the stimulus check. 4 trillion of those was actually helped to create the vaccine and create, COVID testing centers. So that's where 4 trillion went. 4.5 trillion is actually for quantitative easing. What does that mean? Is that the treasury is buying bonds to help the stock market stay afloat. Otherwise, it will crash. So every month, the biggest buyer of stocks is not you and I, it's actually the government that is buying all these bonds. And last is 2 trillions for infrastructure, that is for public works. Now, adding all this together, it's roughly about $13 trillion. That's a lot of money that is floating around. Now, a lot of people, a lot of the workers in the US, actually families that have this money already spent it, and we're predicted that we're going to run out of money by January of next year, 2024. Now all this seems doom and gloom, and obviously if we translate that into the real estate market, we might think that, hey, the real estate market is going to crash. Why? Because people don't have money. In fact, a lot of companies are laying off their workers because there's not enough demand for their products or services. You might think so. So let's talk about what is happening in the housing market. I'm going to use pure numbers. Market this year, especially specifically in Southern California, we are looking to have an increase of about 3.6% up in price value. The average time for houses to stay in the market is about 45 days. And we don't have that many multiple offers that we did have before, let's say in 2020 and 2021. However, instead of having 20, 30 offers, we'll still have multiple offers for houses that are priced right. In fact, houses are selling for 100% of their asking price if they're priced at market value. So the ones that are sitting most likely are actually overpriced. Now let's go for housing, right? So if we look at all this, the interest rate is as of this recording is 7.25%, which is pretty high. It's no longer the 3%, 3.5% that we used to have before in 2020 and 2021. In fact, I don't expect that we're going to see these numbers ever again. If we do, it will be something maybe 10, 15 years in the future by whatever reason it might be. Now, at 7.25, that is the way that the Federal Reserve is making sure that we don't have a crazy inflation. So they actually, the higher the interest rate is, the less people, people will be less inclined to borrow money. And that's why it's that. Now, because of it, then we're able to control prices. The Federal Reserve would rather have a crash in the housing market than have a run of inflation in every other products out there. But let me ask you this. When you actually go in the supermarket, are things expensive or have they remained the same price? Or have they lower? Most likely the prices are actually higher. According to the Federal Reserve, or the government says that CPI, which is Consumer Price Index, they say that inflation is about what, 3.8%? Which means that if an item was worth $1 before, now it's worth $1.03, some change like that. Let's look at it carefully because General Dollar, they actually increased their price. They announced, actually they did that last year, they announced that the price is going to be 25% high in every item across the board. What does that mean? Does that mean that shouldn't the inflation be, or the increase be only 3 cents? Max 5 cents? No, it's 25%. So things that you see the articles and the products they buy in the market are actually more than what the government is announcing. Because again, they are selecting items that they deem necessary in order to make the compound of the CPI look the way they look, for whatever reason that might be. Now, the CPI, I will say, look into what you're buying in the store and you'll see that things are no longer the same. Now, 7.25 is the mortgage that we have. If you have a good credit score and you have a good job, then you qualify for 7.25. That is the minimum you will be getting. The average buyer of to qualify, they might be getting an 8%. For every increase in interest rates, your purchase power actually goes down 10%. For example, if you qualify for $1 million last year at 3%, then and it goes to 4%, then your purchasing power goes down to about 900. Now, this is roughly the math. So again, if you did qualify for $1 million 2 years ago at 3%, now your purchasing power goes down 4 times, which means you'll be able to purchase something at 600, roughly. That's your purchasing power withering away. What's the solution? I hear some of my clients and friends saying that they're going to stay put and buy whenever interest rates goes up, or actually go down. Why would this would not be a good strategy? Because whenever we have so much money in the system, remember, we have all this money. QE 4.5 trillion is still floating around, and who has this money? The corporations. All these companies has this money, and who are buying the single family houses? We are no longer competing in buying houses with other families. We're actually competing also with institutional buyers that are buying real estate. All this money still in their treasuries, in their, I would say, in their bank accounts, ready to deploy at any moment's time. 7.25%. So what is happening? While all this situation is going on, we have to pay attention to what's doing, what's happening domestically. Do you know that we are no longer doing investment the traditional way? In order to be a savvy investor, you have to find opportunities that are no longer available, because you're looking for properties, let's say buy and flip. You're going to buy something, let's say it's worth $1 million, you try to buy for 500, you're not going to find anything for 500 or 700. In fact, the spread right now, where you used to make $100,000 in a flip, now you'll be lucky if you can make 20,000. And with the risk going on right now, you might not even break even. In fact, could be a loss. So buying and flipping houses is no longer a case. It might not be viable. Buy and holding, well, with this interest rate, if you're an investor, buy and holding, you'll be actually looking for 10% or more for a hard money loan. You're an investor. So what is it? The other strategies that you can find. Forced equity. There are actually several laws that allows you to do that. We have ADU that was approved around 2017, which means that you have enough setback and enough lot size, you can build a little casita or a granny pad or just a secondary house in the back of your property.
Yes, ADUs are often converted garages or a separate small building behind a larger home. Under the new law, owners of those properties can sell the attached or separate housing units, applying the same rules as selling a condo. For example, the main home, an ADU, will have 2 different property taxes and get separate utility bills for water, sewer, gas, and electricity. Each property might also have to form a homeowners association to assess dues to maintain shared space, such as a driveway, a pool, or a common roof. The state housing department reports that 1 in every 5 new housing units built in the state today is an ADU. Check out how many were just added to homes in the Bay Area or are in the process of being added. We looked up ADU applications by county and found Santa Clara had the most, with over 2,200 ADU applications in 1 year, followed by Alameda and San Mateo County. San Francisco Assemblymember Phil Ting, who drafted the legislation, says this will give more people home ownership opportunities.
So this does a couple things. It increases the number of housing units throughout the state. Because ADUs are smaller and because you oftentimes share that property with another neighbor, they come a little bit cheaper. So they're cheaper to rent. They're also cheaper to purchase should they be sold.
Now, this is important. The new law allows local cities to allow the buying and selling of ADUs, so they have to opt in. Ting says ADUs are already being sold separately, sometimes for up to 30% of the entire home value in states like Seattle, Oregon, and Texas. With the investigative unit, I'm Hilda Gutierrez. Back to you.
Very interesting. Thank you, Hilda.
ADUs. So that would add more square footage, that would add more value to property, which you can rent and have an additional income. Say that you're single, this is you're a family of 4. You buy this property, you find out that, hey, you have enough space to build ADU, you pay LDU, and then you have more equity, you increase the value of your property. And because we can actually, the ADU can have a separate meter, you can rent it to a secondary family and create more income for yourself. That's ADU. What other? SB9. What is SB9, you say? SB9 was actually approved in 2019, and this is to mitigate the congestion of not having enough lack of housing for families. So what it is that, let's say that you buy a property that have enough setback. Let's say that is a 10,000 square foot lot, and it's a house in one corner, and there's enough, half of the other space is empty. What you can do, you can actually build a secondary house. I'm not talking about duplex. You can build and divide that lot into a secondary house. And if you have enough setback, you can build an ADU either in the back or on top. So what you're essentially doing is you have a house, you build a similar house, let's say a 1,200 square foot house, and on top of that, build ADU. Let's say 800 square foot property. So suddenly, you have a 4-plex. So SB9 allows you to build essentially a 4-plex for your 1 lot single family property. Interesting, right? Next, we have what is called SB4. SB4 is, this is actually for churches that have a lot of properties. Let's say you have a bigger lot or parking lot. This allows churches and to build affordable housing, using their parking space and any land that they may have that is in use in LA. This allows for, again, more properties to be built and allow people to have, again, housing. Now, there's another assembly. 1033 allows you to sell your ADU. This actually was approved recently. Means that, let's say that I buy a single family house and there's a setback, I build an ADU. Now I can legally cut the parcel and sell the ADU in the back as a separate APN parcel number. However, this requires you to have a little HOA, association, to take care, maintain the outskirts around the property, but it's doable. So suddenly you buy a single family house and you create a duplex where you can sell and have your mini association where you can actually manage it and have the association take care of it. Very cool, huh? Same with the SB9. You can cut it, you can sell your the duplex next door, and you can sell the ADUs on top, or if you decide to put it back. So all these laws has been approved. Don't quote me on the timing. ADU was approved in 2017, 2019, and this was actually approved 5 days ago. The SB 4 was approved a few days ago, and Assembly 1030 was actually approved. It's either being approved or it's being approved already very recently. So what am I saying with all this? Is that we have evidence that properties do not go down in value. In fact, we're going to see that people are going to live in smaller properties. For example, look no further than in Hong Kong, in Asia, where people, there's so little space that people live in little spaces, little cages where they have like bunk beds, and people just rent the bunk beds in like first level, second level, third level, and that is for a couple $100, $300 to $400. You actually have a bunk bed for yourself and different people living in those conditions. Hopefully we don't get there, but if you look at Japan, people actually sleep in pots and little capsules because there's no more room. We're seeing evidence of that in downtown LA, where some entrepreneurs started building these bunk beds for people to use in shared spaces. So we see that already, and it's happening. Therefore, if you look and see, like, if you think that there's no chance for you to buy a property but things are expensive, then yeah, by all means, you will not be able to buy a house. However, if you look deeper and see and ask the right question, what can I do to buy a property? If you want to, like if you want to rent your whole life, then by all means, that is doable as well. However, if you're looking to have something to call home, something that you can say, hey, I own this and I can give it to my heirs or whoever when I pass on, then a property is a way to get started. Look for the appropriate methods and talk to professionals and ask, well, if I want to buy a property, is this the right way? Is this something that is appropriate for me? Is this something that suits my needs? If it doesn't suit your needs, great. If it does though, then perhaps you can ask, again, ask for the right questions. What do I need to do to buy a property, to invest in a property you want to invest? And what are the requirements? There are a lot of opportunities that are being passed that are available if we actually pay attention and we focus on what works for us. Of course, there are things that are out of our control and it's scary. These are scary times, but at the same time, these are the times where in this technology and information age, we can find everything at the tip of our finger. And even if we don't find anything ourselves, we can call people. You can call me, you can call your friends, you can call professionals, call your banker, call your lender from your bank, and just have a conversation. Everything starts with being curious and finding out what is it that I can do to make myself better. So yeah, there are opportunities out there, and if you look into those, you'll find it. If this is not for you, it's not for you. But at least you know what is it that you're saying no to. Again, my name is Gary Yao, and I'll be talking to you soon.